Hello, and welcome to our sentence pattern series. So, the purpose of our sentence pattern series is to help us master different ways to form a sentence. It will help us to add style to our writing, as well as we'll be learning grammar and punctuation rules. And it is important that we learn how to be creative, creative in our writing, creative in our speaking. Um, it just adds a little bit of pizzazz to life. So, we're going to start with sentence pattern number one. Now, we have a total of 26 sentence patterns that we're going to discuss. So, sentence pattern number one. And for those of you all who are looking for this packet, you can find this packet on my web page or on my classroom website, or check Google Classroom because I posted it there. Sentence pattern number one. We're talking about a strong action active verb. Strong action active verb. The purpose of this particular sentence pattern is going to help us to create an active form of the action verb. It's going to prevent us from using the to be verbs, and it's also going to help us to basically um, limit our reliance on our linking verbs. So, in order to understand this a little bit more, what we're going to do is we're going to just break this apart. The first thing we need to know is what is a verb? So, again, now you're seeing how grammar ties into this. We know a verb tells what the subject does, is, or what happened to the subject. Verbs will make statements, they will ask questions, they will give commands. And a verb is also one of the two required words or parts of speech in every sentence. If you are writing a sentence and you do not have a verb, it is not a sentence. You must have both a subject and a verb. Let's talk about to be verbs. To be, to be verbs are also known as helping verbs or auxiliary verbs. These verbs help another verb, which we call the main verb. These verbs help the main verb. And the main verb is telling what the subject is doing. These are words that connect the subject to the main verb, okay? We use these all the time. Am, is, are, was, were, been, have, has, had, may, must, ought, can, could, might, would, should, shall, will, do, does, and did. We use them all the time. Now, for some of us, we use them incorrectly. We'll say things like, I be going. No, it's not I be going, it's I am going. Here's an example. Tourists may visit the White House. Well, we know that tourist is the subject, correct? Now, what do the tourists do? They visit. Well, the may is helping the verb visit. Sometimes the verb or the main verb is separated from, I'm sorry, that should say sometimes the to be verb is separated from the main verb by a modifier. Words used to describe another word. Modifiers, we have two. We have adjectives and adverbs. Tourists are never allowed in the president's private living room. Well, are and allowed, are is our to be verb or our helping verb. Allowed is our main verb. But in between those two, we have the word never. We have the adverb never. Okay? All right. But we see that these two are still connected. Linking verbs. Well, linking verbs do exactly what they do. They link, they connect. but they do not show actions. Linking verbs do not show actions, but they show the state of being. Linking verbs we use to connect the renaming of the subject and use to connect the descriptions. So, in other words, we're connecting another name for the subject and we're connecting another description of the subject. They also connect the subject of the verb to more information, which is the renaming, which is the description about the subject, such as adjectives, nouns, and descriptive phrases. For example, the book seems interesting. Well, how are we describing the book? We're describing the book as interesting. So the state of being is it seems interesting. Or Tommy and Jamie are friends. What are we saying about Tommy and Jamie? We're renaming them. They're friends, right? So we need that linking verb are to tell us that, hey, I'm showing you the connection between the two. Here's Tommy and Jamie. We're renaming them as friends. So we're connecting them together. We're saying that they are friends. They're connected as friends. Linking verbs are often used by themselves. We have different types of linking verbs, like sensory linking verbs. Look, smell, sound, taste, feel. These are linking verbs. Now, they can also be action verbs. They are only linking verbs when the action is not involved in the sentence. They're not action verbs when it's not being performed. Here's an example. The flower smelled sweet. Well, sweet is doing what? It's describing the flower, right? And so the word smelled or smelt, depending on where you are, smelled is linking flower to sweet. To sweet. Here's our other example. Johnny smelled the sweet flower. Well, Johnny is performing what action? Correct. He's smelling the flower or he smelled the flower. And we do have less common linking verbs as well, like grow, remain, prove, and stay. Again, we're going to apply the same thing. Our subjects performing these verbs? No. Okay, so if it's no action, then we're going to treat them as linking verbs. Well, what's an action verb? An action verb is also called a dynamic verb. And these verbs express an action. When we're talking about express an action, you ask yourself, can I perform it? One of the things that I like doing, I ask you all, hey, show me this. And an action verb can be physically, you can physically do something or you can mentally do something. It's going to explain what the subject of the sentence is doing or has done. Active form, the active form of the verb, right? It is simply the subject of that verb is doing that particular action. Got it? The subject of the verb is performing or doing or has done that action. For example, Jordan stole the teacher's answer key. Well, what action did Jordan do? He stole. And is stealing something that you can physically do? Yes, you can physically go and steal something. So that makes this, first of all, an action verb. Stole is an action verb. Jordan has um, completed or he has performed the act of stealing. So that makes it active. Okay? So why use strong active action verbs? Remember, a sentence where the subject is being performed by that action verb is what we call an action active sentence. You may hear other people say active voice. So use your active voice. They're saying We want you to write sentences where the subject is performing or has performed that action verb without using uh, the to be verbs or without using the linking verbs. So, your active action verbs, what they do is we're going to use strong verbs, right? And these strong verbs are more specific, clear, and concise. These strong verbs help us to visualize what has happened or what has happened. These strong verbs provide a tone for the text as well as alter the mood for the reader of that particular text. So here's your takeaway. This is what you should have learned. You now know what verbs are. You now know the purpose of a verb. You know that verbs are essential components to writing and speaking. You've learned the difference between linking, helping, and action. You also learn how to make an active sentence. You know what an active sentence is. It is when it is when the subject is performing that particular action or has um, performed that action. And you're not using to be verbs. You're not using the to be helping verbs. You also know that you can locate the subject and ask, what did the subject do to help you all to identify the verb? And if you can identify the verb, you can determine whether it's linking, whether it's helping, whether it's in its active state. Here's your challenge. In your reading, I want you to select 15 sentences. And 7 of these sentences must use an active action verb. You're going to provide an analysis for each of these sentences. You're going to identify the subject and the verb. And then you're going to answer, what image do you see? What tone and mood did this action verb or did this action verb create? And then the additional 8 sentences you are going to rewrite, okay? And you're going to rewrite these sentences using active action verbs. All righty. You all have a great day.